And so therefore the solutions that we seek are still within the paradigm of the old world, which really no longer exists. But it is continually made up in front of us as Obama comes forward and starts talking about different economic situations or the national security for flu or how the economy might raise itself up. And, of course, let's not forget World Health Care. All of these things just there to lead you astray. All of these things just to keep your mind occupied, keep you preoccupied, so that you're not seeing the real image unfolding. And of course, this is where I hope Radio Freeman steps in. Now, I know I'm ahead of my time. I know this. And I know that it'll take time for the world to catch up with the Freeman perspective. Although it's been going on all along. Now, people ask me, they say, well, two things that I hear often are, I wish I could spew what you spew over and repeat this to people so they understand it, and how on earth do you manage to remember all of these details? Well, one, I am a very smart fellow. Always have been. Top of my class, all that kind of rigmarole. Never gave it much thought. Don't really care. But, other than that, I've been living this reality for so long. And let's realize that I started becoming a conspiracy theorist, quote unquote, in 1993. Now that's later than some, later than certainly Jordan Maxwell or some of the others that speak on these topics. 1993 began my adventure, my exploration into the occult and sorcery of the government. My very first step was to be a protester with the Rainbow family out in Washington, D.C., out in front of Bill Clinton's White House. I began this journey, and I continued on it. Now, 16 years later, still talking about it. Still watching as it unfolds. Now, I've covered my conspiracy theories from this time period forward ad nauseum. If you haven't heard all of my thoughts and theories on from Y2K up to 2010, then go back and check out radiofreeman.com and get caught up from the beginning. Believe me, you won't get bored. And there are a lot of details that I report on this show that don't stay in my brain. But the truth of the matter is that I've been on this trail for a long, long time, and that's why I remember what I do remember, because I was living it at the time. When others were just going about their day-to-day business, thinking that life was everything normal and that they had nothing to do except for get through college and get a good job and go about their business, I was discussing the capping of the Great Pyramid with gold, and the potential of life on Mars. The United States Space Force, HARP, chemtrails, that came a little bit later, about 1996, and many other topics that people just thought were outlandish, like human cloning. I was watching that day in Congress when Rael spoke about human cloning. I was watching as the people just scoffed and laughed at this man in his big white puffy spacesuit, and I understood all that. And of course I've discussed how the difference is now that Obama has come out and said the very same thing. And there's really no reaction. The things that I talk about are ahead of their time. They're definitely keeping you at the point of the sword. We are the avant-garde of conspiracy here. I think that the time to discuss the ills of the world are over, because none of this really matters. If you're still caught up in the 9/11 truth, or you're still caught up in trying to save the economic structure, or if you're still caught up trying to bring us back to a republic, you're not going to adapt. You're not going to make the changes necessary. And the true adaptation that needs to come from all of this is outside of that box, and we must come to the recognition that this was all manufactured as a prison cell for you. It's hard to get through those steps, I know. I mean, it's simple now, people thinking about the economy, thinking about money, It's simple to see how fallacious this whole situation was. We see now that it's all just manufactured numbers, thoughts, and has nothing to do with precious metals, has nothing to do with spurring people to create and innovate, but everything to do with simple control. And money is the largest faith-based system we have. It goes far and beyond any religion known to mankind. There are those that know nothing about money. And in this tribal existence, they get much further, and they have far less complications. You will realize that within a non-monetary system, in a tribal type scenario, that the human psyche is much better developed and created with far less perversions. You see, we're all isolated. We're isolated by our televisions, by our internet, by our homes. We now see commercials on television telling children how to go out and play for an hour. This is how we are getting lost. And this is where the ills of humanity are coming, is in this isolation, because we are all under trauma-based mind control. Now, I know that sounds like a big lofty thing, like you have some sort of Dr. Green coming after you trying to put some probes in your brain, or maybe eat you, do some horrible things to your body. But it is not that difficult for trauma to come about. Simply every month, as you're trying to make it, trying to keep that roof over your head and keep your internet on so you can listen to my show, this is trauma. And none of it's real. Not in the real world. There's so many levels to reality, are there not? But this fear is there. I feel it every month, and every month, I'm back down to zero and I start again. How am I going to make it this month? I never know. But I've been going on the path of synchronicity, and this is what brought me on the travels and what opened up all the revelations that I've brought your way. Now, I feel a need to go back and cover a few of these revelations because, well, there's new listeners coming along, and also I realize that, well, I'm quite a few years ahead of my time. I mean, I was talking about the president after W not being a natural-born citizen during Bill Clinton's era. Back in the early 90s. So now as I see everything start to come into view and people are going, oh my God, he's not a native-born American citizen, can't be president, he's going to go up for court January 26th in front of the federal courthouse. And I'm saying, guys, this is exactly the plan. If you go back, you can research my research and realize that I've been talking about this long before anyone ever even heard of Barack Obama. When people are saying that 9/11 truth is making an impact, I'm saying no, it was supposed to make an impact. You were supposed to know that this was an inside job. This is all part of the program. If you ask me, everything is going according to plan. But not our plan, because we don't have one. You know why we don't have a plan? Because we don't know what life is about. Why don't we know why life is about? Well, we grew up in a zoo. And there is life on the other side of the zoo. But the zookeepers will continue to tell you that this is not so, to keep you complacent in your cell. But there is life out there, and it's very interesting and intriguing. There is a force that the Hebrews used to speak of. They called it the Shekinah. This was considered the bride of Israel. It was a power, a force that followed the Hebrews to their very numerous sites of existence. The Shekinah, I think, is perhaps one of the things that I've been trying to discuss, because I did not really understand what it was. But as I discussed the idea of the chaos, the idea of the matrix, the idea of a Holy Spirit guiding you forth to miraculous ends that you had never even considered, leaving you feeling loved and nurtured, This force is what the Hebrews would call the Shekinah. It was the feminine version of God. It was the mothering version of God. But there was issue with the Shekinah because you can manipulate it. Because it has no sense of right or wrong. It simply is. And in this way, the black magicians can take the use of the Shekinah and use it for their own evil ends. The idea of studying the Shekinah, Hebrew, and the Kabbalah comes up quite often as well.